be getting into some stuff on blade contact.
Okay.
And gaining outside of range, okay? So we can gain the 3 advantages with and without blade contact. Because of this, you can begin your gain outside of range, which is usually recommended. I like to begin my gain outside of range mentally, but without necessarily displaying it, because if I display that I have the weapon gained outside of range, then they'll know and they might disengage. This also makes the gain easier. You want to use less movement by the time you're in range to get the gain. I usually like to have the gain like right as I'm closing into range, okay? So we have some advantages of blade contact and some disadvantages of blade contact, and we're going to cover both. So one of the advantages of blade contact is if we're in the bind, is that I can control and I can manipulate your weapon to move it how I want, right? Okay, that's a very big advantage as well. Also, when I'm in the bind with you, I can feel when you leave the bind, so I know to go to the next route, as we've covered before with a sense of touch, okay? Right. Also, what I like too is that when we're in the bind, I can push against you and make you push back. In which case, then I can disengage as your tip goes offline. Okay? So some of the disadvantages of blade contact, though, is that we can alert the enemy faster than we want to. So for example, go ahead and take a step back. If I come into range and I have the weapon gained here, you might not fully know if I have the weapon gained, right? But if I touch, then it's going to alert your senses and you're going to realize you're in danger and you might react faster.
Okay.
So essentially, no, we gain the 3 advantages. Now, both can be useful as you may or may not want to alert the enemy. You may want to touch the enemy's blade and alert them to get a specific reaction out of them and put them in obedience, pretty much. Or you may not want to alert them of what you are doing. So we're going to keep both in mind. So let's cover something real quick. So let's put the swords down.
Okay.
Okay, and we're going to do a simple drill real quick. We're going to start with our feet shoulder width apart, and you're going to have your hand here. Okay, and we'll use that hand because I'm going to use this one. Okay, I'm going to start way over here. I'm going to poke you right in the chest, and you're going to stop me simply by cross parrying.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Ready?
Yep.
Good. Ready?
Yep.
Very difficult, right?
Yeah.
But now, I'm going to be even closer, and we're going to be touching, and you're going to close your eyes. Okay, we're going to do the same drill. Ready?
Yep.
Much easier and much faster, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is one of the advantages of our sense of touch. And I'm sure you can imagine that if I come in and bind with you, that now I've alerted that sense of touch, you have a much faster repost.
Right.
So let's cover maintaining on the gain and retreating while we fence out.
Okay, so before we do that, I want to go back. I have a question on something you said at the beginning.
Yeah.
Talking about getting the gain before you close range, but not making it look like you have the gain.
Yeah.
So could we separate, and can I see some examples of what that looks like? Because I just want to see if I'm able to determine if I'm able to tell the difference if I've already lost the game before we close, you know?
And we will be covering that in the next drill, but let's go ahead.
Oh, we will? Okay.
Yeah,
well, we can just wait till the next drill.
We can go ahead and hop in a little bit more. Let's get into it while your mind's thinking about it.
Okay.
Okay. So a good example is, say you're standing right there, and we'll say for this drill, you're not necessarily moving. Go ahead and take a slight step back. Okay. So right now, if I'm right here, I have the gain. Okay. The reason is, if I pick my sword up, my sword has a straight shot to you. If I go forward, and yours does not have the straight shot to me.
Okay.
Right? So I already have the gain. So a lot of times what I'll do in like a tournament and stuff like that is like I won't look like I stance up, like they go to start the tournament and I look like I'm kind of moving around like this sometimes, like I'm waiting. But in reality, I'm like getting the gain, and then like I might stop like right here. And they're still right there, and they don't realize it, but if you hold your sword out, like I already have the gain on this side.
Right.
Okay, because that angle that I have with my body makes it where when I hold my sword out, I already have that gain.
Right.
So
but would people normally like, because we're like right eye aligned, your right eye to my left eye.
Left eye, left eye.
Oh, yeah. Left eye. That just feels bad though, looking at you over on this side. So wouldn't people just move themselves to...
You would be surprised. A lot of times they don't. A lot of people, because they don't even know about eye alignment, they don't really think about the positioning to that extent. Versus like you've been exposed to it. For us, it's really easy to know, but there's so many people that just start like dead center and like come forward.
But
like so many people.
I just feel, if you're, yeah, like you said, if your sword's, this just feels bad. I'm like, this is all target.
Yeah.
Sure, I can parry.
And it's because a lot of people, they don't really pay attention to the foot position that much. They just pay attention to the sword. And it's like, maybe some people notice, like, if I have my sword here, they don't feel great now, right?
Right.
But if I'm just, like, standing here and my sword isn't engaged, then a lot of times they don't even realize it yet. Especially because a lot of people start like this in longsword. They start up here.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of people will start up here. And bring that elbow down and in. There we go.
This?
That. Involuntary. Because they throw this big cut. And a lot of times they'll start with their left foot forward here. Or they'll start like here, like this.
But for the big cut, assuming it's the same thing, all you have to do is just, whatever it was, you like counter cut and your sword's hit.
Yeah, point at the cut to collect.
Point at the cuts.
Yeah. So like a good example is like one way that I beat a lot of longsword fencers and have that gain outside of range is say you're in that guard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, this one?
Yep. So you'll kind of loosen up a little bit. You'll be here with your left foot forward, and you're like kind of like this. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll refine that guard more a bit later. But what I do is I just simply get left eye alignment when we go to start like this. Okay.
Right.
And then now I don't even show them because necessarily I kind of do already have a gain. The reason is when I bring my sword this way, if they throw that cut, they have to travel all the way across their body to hit me and through my sword. In which case, I can just point at my cut and it'll collect it. So say you reverse and you go and you throw that cut, all I got to do is point at it, collect it, and then thrust at the same time.
Right.
So, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't realize that because everybody works on sword work. Decent amount of people work on footwork, but not enough people work on positioning. They don't actually know the advantages and the disadvantages of the position that they're in. The reason why I know this is the amount of people that complain about people being fast. They're always like, I died because he's fast. And it's like, if he's fast, make him travel more distance and slow him down.
Right.
But they don't even, a lot of times when I tell people that, they never knew that. Because a lot of times, some of the manuscripts don't really talk about positioning like that.
Or if the guy's fast, make him fast into exactly what they're going to do. And then it doesn't matter how fast they are.
Exactly, right? So, that's some of the things on that. But let's cover a little bit more about gaining outside of range.
Yeah.
So when you're in guard, I usually like to gain it with my feet. And then like as I'm closing into that range, I want to have it like gain and covered. Like once I'm stepped into range, I need to have it gain and covered. I don't want to be stepping into range and covering because now my hand and my foot's in tempo as I'm stepping into range and I can be striked.
So is this similar to the way that the lunges are supposed to be?
Landing with your back foot as you touch the sword so you can spring off.
That's what it was. So it was, get into, and then
Yeah, it was you touch once the back foot lands.
That's what it was.
So it's like if you're in guard and I'm gaining, right, and I'm stepping, I don't touch your sword until my back foot lands.
That's what it is.
That way, once the back foot lands, I can attack.
Okay.
Versus if I come in and I do it when my front foot lands, I can't lunge yet, and I've alerted your senses, so I gotta wait for my back foot to land before we
That's what it was. Okay. So it's don't touch until your back foot lands.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so once again, so a little bit on what that looks like in gain outside range. I might gain the angle, and like I'm coming in, and then like boom. Now I have that line covered, so now I can attack you while maintaining that gain, and then fencing out.
Right, I mean, and so if we do that again, if we get to that position again, well, I know I've already lost the gain, and where your sword is, I feel like this is the time where I need to get back and make perfect space, because I feel like if I go to disengage and dip under your sword,
then I'm going to hit you.
You're just going to hit me, because I'm losing my tempo. You still have your tempo.
Correct, which is why that First rule of attack is only attack if you have control.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you lose control, that second rule of defense is to create perfect space.
Okay.
Because now you know, like, say we both came to gain each other's weapons and we both stepped in, and I got the gain and you didn't.
Right.
Now you know, because of those rules, they simplify everything. You know I have control, I'm going to fucking attack.
Right,
and
exactly.
you know you don't have control, so you got to create space.
Right.
So there is no you reacting to me. It's not like I attack and then you create space. It's you go, you fucked up, you create space, and I'm like, I'm going to kill you. Right? So as soon as I start my attack, you're already creating that space. And then if you regain control, then I go, okay, I don't have control, now I need to create the space.
Right. Okay.
Okay?
That just makes so much sense.
Yeah, so it's just a real easy way to break down. You know that if you don't have control, you're no longer following rules of attack. You're no longer being offensive. You need to then cycle through the rules of defense because now you're in a defensive state because you don't have control. Anytime you don't have control, you're just in a defensive state. A lot of times you're in a defensive state if you're not attacking.
Okay.
And technically, even when you are attacking, you should still be defending yourself, right? But we don't need to go in that rabbit hole because it's just common sense.
Right, that was the whole exercise, cover the first line,
Yeah.
the second line, all that.
Yeah.
So basically, what I heard you say was, I never thought about it before.
Still recording?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, so if I heard you correctly, what it sounds like is, you look at the first rule of attack. Do you have the game?
Do you have control?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have control? If yes, then you go down the lines of boom, the rules of attack.
Yes.
If you don't have control, you switch over to the rules of defense.
And then you go down the
And then
rules
you go
of
to the rules of defense.
And if you go down and then if you follow the rules of defense correctly, it puts you back into control, which cycles you back into the rules of attack.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's like a big flow chart.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then later on, we break it into the 12 rules of engagement, which is like 12 rules of attack, and then 12 rules of disengaging from the attack, which is the same rules, but backwards. That one gets more complex. So that one, like just a quick show on it, is we have the first rule, which actually ties into what we're doing today, okay? So you got the 12 rules of engagement. Let's go ahead and take a step back. The first rule is get in range with advantage. So the first thing I should be doing when I'm engaging you is I should have the advantage before I'm in range. I shouldn't be getting into range and trying to find the advantage like most people do. Most people, both fighters, get into range and try and find an advantage. I don't want to be in your range unless I have an advantage, right? So the first rule is get in range with advantage. So I'm already seeking my eye alignment based on how you stanced up on what's going to counter you. Okay, so I get in range with advantage. By the time I'm in range, I have advantage, which means you're at a disadvantage, which means you have to do something, which means you're technically in obedience to me.
Right.
Okay, so the first rule is to get in range with advantage. Boom. If I am in range with advantage, the second rule is to cover the line. Okay, I need to have the line covered by the time I'm in range. Okay, so I get in range with advantage. I cover the line. Now, before I attack you, I have to deal with the threat. Okay, so I get in range with advantage, I cover the line, and I deal with the threat, okay? But it's not okay to attack you yet, because just because I dealt with the threat doesn't mean that I can necessarily attack you, okay? Because if I deal with the threat in, say, like a way of like a beat, you can still return on a new line, especially in rapier and dagger, and hit me. Okay, so I need to get in range safely, or get in range with advantage, cover the line. I need to deal with the threat. I need to cover the new lines the threat may return on. If I have an offhand, this is a lot easier. It's harder in longsword because we don't have the offhand, right? So say it's rapier and dagger, just for an easy sense of learning. I deal with the threat, boom, and I cover the new lines the threat may return on, okay? Now I think to myself, do I need to parry, which is the next rule, parry if needed. I go, okay, I have both lines covered. What may happen is maybe I don't follow the rule of parry if needed, and I attack you, and you disengage, and then we just double. Right? Because say maybe you didn't go on the new lines, the second line, you actually went on the third line, and now we double. So this parry if needed is a optional one. The reason is because I get in range with advantage, I cover the line, I deal with the threat. If I deal with the threat by way of capture, then I don't need to parry. Right? So now I've achieved that rule, and now I go to the sixth rule, which is attack while seeking advantageous angle. So I attack while seeking a better angle still, right? Now that I hit you, that's still not good enough. I got to get out safely. So now I got to get out of range with advantage, meaning that when I'm retreating, I'm still seeking an advantage. Okay, I need to cover the line on my retreat. I need to deal with the threat and cover the new lines the threat may return on, just in case I didn't kill you or the judge didn't see it. Now I can restart all over again, and I have more of an advantage than what I started with.
Okay.
Now at the master level, these are achieved very, very quickly. And they're almost done all at the same, a similar time. So like once I've achieved like the second rule, then like I can move down, and like against lower level fighters, you don't have to follow all the rules, but high level ones you do. So for example, go ahead and take a step back. Okay, so I get in range with the advantage, right? And now I've gotten range with the advantage. As I'm closing, I'm covering the line, dealing with the threat, and going through all of those. So I gain my advantage. Now, boom, I step in with coverage. I have the threat dealt with. I have the capture. So I don't need to parry. I'm closing the second line by the angle I have my sword, and I'm thrusting in with my attack while seeking advantage. And so it's done very quickly, where essentially say you're pointing at me, outside of range, boom, boom.
Right.
Right? And then fencing out. And so it's done almost in like 2 tempos, depending on like the distance, because I might be trying to seek that advantage outside of range for a bit longer.
Okay.
Which ties in with what we're doing today, because we are focusing on gaining that coverage outside of range, maintaining the gain throughout the attack, which is what we're about to start working on right now.
Okay.
Okay, so let's hop into that.
Perfect. As quick as that happened at my level, there's nothing I could do about that. But the only way I could have prevented that would have had perfect range and repositioned myself so you didn't have gain as soon as you started moving.
Yeah, so the way you simply stop it is by you seeking the advantage outside of range. So then I never get it because you're constantly trying to counter it. So then by the time we both close, then it's like who has the line covered better and who has the weapon gained.
Right. Once it started, that's so quick, I can't, at my level, do anything about it.
And a lot of times people, they don't like see it all happening because it happens like so quick in the 2 movements.
Right.
And it gets a lot of people. It definitely gets a lot of people. So now let's cover maintaining the gain on the attack and retreat and fencing out. Okay. So we need to maintain the gain when we attack. Don't gain and then just thrust into their strong, giving them the gain. So what does this mean? So I don't want to gain your weapon and then do what so many people do sadly, and they thrust like this, and they thrust into their strong, and now I lost the gain. Just giving it to you and giving you an easy parry.
Yeah.
So we need to maintain the gain during an attack. If we're at a distance of the last third of each other's blade, we would bring our sword hilt forward to where our blades meet, moving your strong forward to where the weak is. Move your blade during the attack to where your strong will stay on the weak, and also drop your body lower. So what this means is, if I'm here, in order to get strong to weak, I would be bringing my blade forward, right? To meet my strong to your weak. Okay, and usually I like to do this while dropping a bit lower. Okay, now to maintain the gain, if we're at the distance of the middle of the blades, then we're going to bring our sword back and down, sliding your strong back to their weak. This is because if you move forward anymore, you will bring your blades strong too close to the strongest part of their sword. So instead, since their weak is now behind your blade, we're going to pull back and push down and then thrust upwards. So this is the difference, okay? Here, I need to bring my strong forward, right? Forward and up, okay? And curving that tipping. Versus if we're at the middle, if I were to go forward, now we're strong to strong. So instead what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring my sword up and down to get strong, and then thrust upwards. Okay? So now the way I would do this is like, say we're here and we're a little bit closer, okay, is I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to thrust upwards, maintaining this instead of as much forward, so that I can maintain this strong to weak here. Okay? So depending on our distance depends how we're going to maintain the gain. Okay. So let's go over this. So go ahead and take a step back. Say I gained outside of range, okay? And I come in, boom, and I have the gain here, okay? And this means I'm going to go forward and maintain the gain, bringing the guard to where our swords were originally meeting, and bringing essentially my guard. Okay? Now, if we happen to be closer, then I'm going to pull back to the strong and down, and then do more of an upwards thrust than a straight forward one.
Okay.
Okay, so let's hop into the drills for this. So we're going to start with the player gains. This time we're going to start in range at first just to make it easier. You're going to gain my blade. Player begins the gain in range, gains over the enemy's weapons and thrusts while maintaining the gain. This gain should be done by moving strong forward on the lunge. Maintain on the retreat as well. Player and enemy in 5th zone on the first class with just thrust. Enemy does not parry. Okay, so what does this mean? So we're going to also need to maintain the gain on the way out. So if I've maintained the gain and I've hit you on the way in, after I hit you, I need to go right back to getting the gain again. I don't want to hit you and then go like this, because if you didn't die or the judges didn't see it. Okay?
Okay.
So we're going to hop into this drill. Interesting. All right. So, again, let's cover that again. Okay? So the good way to think about it is now that we are starting out of range, is I'm stepping in range, I'm having that coverage, but I'm not attacking until my back foot lands. And the easy way to think about it is just to step and then sink. So I'm stepping and then I sink down, and that's what I touch, which also loads me for my lunge. So I'm getting more out of those one movements where I step, my back foot lands, and I sink to load for that lunge.
Okay.
Okay? Good. Get that perfect maintain on the way out. Very good. Good. And now, even if they go to track you a little bit with their tip, it can just make it even easier for you because now they're closing the distance for you and they're in tempo for you to capture it.
Right.
So let's do that. So now you take that first step outside, okay, which I start to move, which just brings me closer.
Right.
So now you can step and then sink. And now my hands are in tempo.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and gain and do the drill with the longsword. Good. Good. Do it 2 more times. Retreat. Good. Okay, now grab the rapier again. And just single hand first. Okay, same drill with rapier. Good. Again. Okay. Now it feels a little weird, like you want to gain a little less, doesn't it?
Right.
Okay. Now grab the rapier like it's that longsword. Give them the same stance as you would in longsword. Okay. Go ahead and do that gain. Good. And retreat. Good. Now hold it one-handed, but keep that same stance. And go for the same gain. Much better. Good. Now two-handed. Get that nice longsword stance. Good. Go ahead and gain. Very good. Now retreat. Same thing again. So now after you gain, pause and thrust one-handed and have your second hand covering the second line. Good. Okay. But you'll notice your stance is still changed a little bit when you get the single hand.
Right.
So you kind of want to thrust the same. That way your stance is the same. Where essentially longsword and rapier is the same. It's just rapier. I have my offhand right here. But I want that stance and that thrust the same.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and do it again.
All right.
2 hands on the rapier.
All right. I'm going to do it slowly and with my eyes closed to see if I can feel the difference.
Perfect. Nice longsword stance. Good.
Okay. Same thing.
Good. Very good, very good.
That does.
The fun thing about longsword is like it helps you feel how important gaining the weapon is. In rapier, a lot of people don't bind that much, and they just don't seek to bind as much and control as much. But in longsword, they do. But realistically, you should be doing it the same in both with the same stance. That way you're improving both, and it doesn't matter which weapon you have.
Right.
Because you're always stancing and gaining up the same. It's very good.